Oh, morning everyone. Looks like we have a few people already. I'm just going to get things started on Discord and then we'll get started. It doesn't really look like anyone is on Discord, but I'll put it up anyways, just in case anyone wants. Okay, and put my microphone on. Okay. Okay, look at that. We already have 9 people. That's fantastic. Okay. Oh, down to 7 people. That's all right. Okay, so what we're gonna do today is something a little different. Well, not terribly different, but it's a new topic, something that I don't think you've seen before. It's really not too bad. I just thought it'd be a nice way to warm up after the break. Speaking of which, I hope that everyone had a really nice break. And I hope that it was, you know, an opportunity for you to relax and everything, and sort of, you know, get back to, you know, that sort of feeling of not having to do anything. I mean, maybe that's actually not a good thing. Maybe you do actually want stuff to do. I don't know. It's really hard to say what the right feelings to have right now are. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's get started. There's 2 things I want to show you today. There is something called midpoints and something called the distance formula. And these are 2 things I do not believe you've seen, but it's possible that you have seen them. But if you have seen them already, that's totally fine. I just thought that they'd be kind of a fun thing to look at today. So let's start off by talking about midpoints. So we're going to talk about midpoints. Oops, there's an N. Midpoints, come on, midpoints of line segments. Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about today. It really is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You're just trying to find the middle of a line or a line segment. So that's what we'll talk about first. Before I jump into it, I do want to talk a little bit about the website and some updates that I made to the website. Yeah, we just started. We started at 9, but we haven't really done a whole lot yet. I've just kind of been chatting. Yeah, so if you head over to the website, I'm just gonna pull it up on my computer so I can see it. Right at the front, there's an update page. I sent everybody's parents or guardians an email about some of the things to expect for the remainder of the year. If you haven't heard already, and I'm sure you have heard already, the school division has made it pretty clear. But yeah, we are going to continue doing this distance learning until the end of the year. So we're gonna keep doing this all the way until the end of the year. There's a few things you should know about your grade and how that's going to be calculated. I would refer to that email because I don't want to get into all the details right now. But the gist of it is that the lowest grade that you can get is the grade that you had on March 20th. So I think that was the last day that we were actually physically in school. So that's the lowest that your grade can be. But I'm gonna just keep calculating your grade as we keep doing assignments and everything. Like the way I calculate your grade is not going to be any different. The only thing that will be different is that when I actually submit the grade for the report card, I'm going to look at these two numbers. One of the numbers is the grade that is just your regular grade that I would have calculated as is, and then the other grade, or the other number, would be the grade that you were at on March 20th, and I will take the largest of the two, and whichever one of those is larger, that's what your final grade will be. So I'm not going to be calculating your grade any differently. It's not like I'm going to say assignments are now not worth anything or anything like that, but I am going to sort of look at those two grades and choose the largest of the two. Another important point that I put on the website that I want you to be aware of, wait, but your grade can get higher though. Yes, your grade can get higher. Okay, so another thing that I want to talk about is our schedule, and I did put the schedule up on our website. Oh, excuse me. So the live stream schedule for grade 9s, that's you guys, is every even day on the school cycle. So that would be, well, today, not tomorrow, but on Thursday. Friday, I believe, is Good Friday. So we have a nice long weekend. So so that means that next week we'll have 2 classes as well. We won't have 3 classes next week. We'll have 2. So we'll have a class today on Tuesday, in 2 days on Thursday. Then again on Tuesday of next week and Thursday of next week. The week after that, it'll be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I'll put some more notes on the website about our schedule, because it may get a little bit confusing, but as long as you know the day of the school cycle, you'll be fine. We're just gonna stick to even days, and if you're not sure how to check what day of what school day it is, you can go to the Winnipeg School Division website. It says right at the top. Another thing you can do is the school division has like a calendar that you can add to your phone. And it will tell you which day of the week or which school day it is, and I put a link to that on that update page, so you can just use that link and just use your phone to see which day of the week it is. I think that was pretty much it. I'm still waiting, I think, for 7 assignments to come in. So if you haven't handed in the latest assignment, the one that was due a week ago, please hand it in. I'd like to return your grades. So yeah, what is happening with exams and report cards? That's a really good question. I've been talking to some other teachers about exams, if we're going to do them, and if we do them, what will they look like? So it's hard to say at this point exactly what exams are going to look like, or if we're going to have them at all. So, excuse me. I guess what I would just have to say is, just stay tuned. I wish I had that answer right now, but I don't. I did look into it over March break, but it kind of looks like a lot of teachers, including myself, haven't really decided how we want to proceed with exams. It would be kind of a shame just to say no exams. I'm hesitant to just say don't do any exams. But if we do exams, it'll have to be very different than what anyone's used to. So I'll let you know as soon as we know. Is that the assignment that we had to have the photo? Yes, it is that assignment, and I believe that you handed it in already. So don't worry. So okay, let's get started. Just want to double check that the chat isn't asking any questions. Okay, so I don't think anyone is on Discord. Oh, looks like someone is on Discord, but I think they might be watching the YouTube as well. I feel like I handed it in the latest assignment, but I'm not sure. Could you contact us directly? If we haven't, that would be great. I'll do my best. That seems kind of like a lot of work, but yeah, I'll look into that. Okay, let's get started. I'm gonna talk about midpoints of line segments. Yeah, let's start taking a few notes. And I'll just keep my eye on the chat. Yes, I do have a Discord. So if you want to go to the Discord, just go to the website, and there are invite links to the website. If you do use the Discord, the lag is much less, so it's much faster. So if you have a question and you type it out, I'll see it much more quickly. Also, if you want to tune into your like with an earphone or something, or a microphone, you can ask a question with your voice, which is kind of nice. So is the grade not being able to go lower than what we had on March 20th, or is that just for math? No, that's for any, as far as I understand, it's for any class in the Winnipeg School Division, that your grade cannot be any lower than what it was on March 20th. So whatever your grade was on March 20th, that's as low as your grade can possibly be. Yeah. And how can we figure out our grades for March 20th? I suppose what I can do is I can put that grade on Google Classroom. Why don't I do that? So I'll put your grade on Google Classroom, and that way you can see what your standing is from March 20th. So yeah, actually don't ask me, because if everyone asks me, I have over 100 students. I can't deal with that level of that volume of requests. So yeah, just hold tight. I'll put your grade, what your grade was on March 20th. I'll put that on Google Classroom, and you'll be able to see what your standing is. Okay. Okay, so midpoints of line segments. So let's talk about that. Okay, so if I give you 2 points, so given 2 points, we can calculate their midpoint. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's talk a little bit about what the midpoint is. Okay, I can't find the Discord invite link. Can you write it on Google Classroom? I'm kind of in the middle of this. I'm gonna do this. You can log into the Discord a little bit later, but I do believe it's just on the grade 9 page, or maybe it's on the here. I'll just put it right here. Trying to figure out how to share. Server settings, privacy, change nickname, create category. How do you share? Oh, invite people. And then copy this. And okay, I'll just put it right in here. There you go. Oh, looks like you got an invite anyways. Okay. Okay, so given 2 points, we can calculate their midpoint. And let's just be very clear about what the midpoint is. So the midpoint of a line segment is the point on the segment which is the same distance between each endpoint. Okay, so that's that's what the midpoint is. So just taking a look at kind of more of like a visual example. If I had 2 points from here to here, all right, e.g., the midpoint, just sort of eyeballing it, would be somewhere like right around there. So that would be the midpoint. Okay, and that's just sort of like an eyeballing it. Like there's no numbers there, but it's right smack dab in the middle. That's why we call it the midpoint. So let's try a few examples and see if we can get to the bottom of this. So let's try. So given points, I'll call this point P, and it's a point 2, 6, and Q, which is the point, let's say negative 4 and negative 4 and 2. Find their midpoint. Find their midpoint. Okay. So let's try that. Let's start off by drawing these 2 points on a Cartesian plane and see what it looks like. So I'm going to make a Cartesian plane, and I think maybe that's not okay. So I need the point 2, 6. So yeah, actually, you know what? That actually was good. So I'm gonna draw the point 2, 6. So maybe that's actually not a good plane. Okay, let me draw it one more time. Okay, so there we go, and then this is probably good. Okay, so this is my y and this is my x. So the point 2, 6 is going to be okay right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the point 2, 6. And the point negative 4, 2 is over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, like that. Okay, and so this is these are 2 points, and if I give you 2 points, I can calculate the midpoint of these 2 points, because if I give you these 2 points, I'm essentially giving you a line segment, and that line segment is going from here to here. That's my line segment, and what I'm looking for is the midpoint of these 2 points. So the point that's right in the middle. And the trick to this is to think about your x value and then think about your y value and kind of think of them separately. And so if you can find like the middle of the x's, then you'd be good. And if you can find the middle of the y's, then you're also good. So that's kind of what we're aiming to do here. So let's think about the x's. So I'll find the midpoint of the x values. Okay, so the midpoint of the x values is going to look something like this. Well, I'm going from here all the way to here. So if I take a look at the middle of that, well, this whole thing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 places from left to right. So my x values go from have a range of 6, right? So they go left and right over 6 values, which means that halfway would be 3 values. So that's my halfway point right there. And that, just looking at it visually, this certainly looks like about halfway. So I'm going to just sort of count this. So my x value is going to be 3 points to the right from this point right here. So let's see, I'm starting at, what is this, negative 4, right? So going over by 3, 1, 2, 3. So I'll go over 3, and that's it. So my x value is negative 1. It's negative 1. And the midpoint of the y values, I'm going to do the same thing. Midpoint of y values. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. And let's see, I'm going from here to here. It looks like I've got 4 places in my y values. So I'm going to start here, and this is has a y value of 6. And I'm going to go down 2, so I've got 5 and then 4. And then if I just sort of follow this point, yeah, that's the same point that I had before. So yeah, I think that this is certainly the midpoint right there. So this is the point it has a y value of 4. So the midpoint is the point -1, 4. Now I'm just gonna ask you if you could just sort of chime in into the chat, either on Discord or YouTube. Can you just tell me if you've done this before? I don't think you have, but it's possible that you have. Can you just say so in the chat if you've done this before? There's about a 30-second delay on YouTube, so I'm gonna keep going, and I'll just keep my eye on the chat. Okay, so you can probably guess that this is not actually the method that we use to calculate the midpoint. We don't just sort of eyeball it. We don't just draw it and kind of draw pictures and stuff. Okay, so you haven't done it. Okay. Okay, there's a lot of no's. Okay, so we haven't. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to show you what we call the midpoint formula. And this is what we actually use to calculate the midpoint. So we use the midpoint formula. Okay. Oh, look at that. You guys are great. Very vocal in the chat. It's just what I want. Okay, so we're going to talk about the midpoint formula now. So the idea of the midpoint formula is it basically does everything that we just did, and it just puts it all smack dab into one little formula, which makes it really easy to calculate the midpoint. So given 2 points, and I'm going to call them P of so x1 and y1 like that. So that's my first point P, and it has coordinates x1 and y1, and the other point is Q, and that's going to have coordinates x2 and y2. So given these 2 points, the midpoint between them is, I'm going to call that M. M stands for midpoint, and it's going to have the following coordinates. I'm going to take the average of the x's, x1 plus x2 divided by 2. That's how you calculate average. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the y's. I'm going to take the average of the y's. So I'll take y1 plus y2 and divide that by 2. And that's the midpoint. And that's really all there is to it. It's a very simple formula. The idea is you just take the average of the x's and the average of the y's, and that gives you the midpoint. So this can be really helpful if you ever need to find the middle between 2 points. And that has a nice little property that it's going to be the same distance from either end, right? So if maybe you want to know a good place to meet someone, and you want to make sure that it's fair, that not one person has a longer distance to walk than the other person, well, you can find their midpoint. See in the chat, someone is feeling slope vibes. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff that is similar to slope with this stuff. Absolutely, this is very much related to slope. Yeah, let's do another example. So let's find find the midpoint, and this is an example, right? E.g. So find the midpoint of the points. Let's say P of let's say 3, 7, and Q, which is, let's say, -5 and -9. Okay, so we'll find the midpoint of those 2 points. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to try this yourself. So I'm hoping that you have some paper in front of you and you've been following along. I'm gonna give you 1 minute to do this one, and then I'll quickly finish it off. So I'm just gonna sit here for about a minute. Let's see if I've got my clock here as well, and I'll just do this. I'll set it for 1 minute, and you can try it yourself. Oh, you can't read that. Okie dokes. So that's that. Okay, where did we go here? Okay. Okay, I hope that that you actually took the time to do that. It's really important to practice this stuff yourself, right? I mean, watching a video is helpful. It's a good first step, but it is important to actually to do it yourself. Yes, I think that you got it right there. But I don't think we need a calculator for this one. I'm hoping you don't need a calculator. So the midpoint, and I'll do this in a different color so we know that it's different from the question. So the midpoint is going to be, I'm going to take the average of the x's, so it's going to be 3 plus -5. I'm just going to write 3 minus 5 over 2. And the average of the y's is going to be kind of the same thing. I'm going to write 7 plus -9, which is the same thing as 7 minus 9 over 2. And that is equal to the point m. And 3 minus 5 is -2. So I've got -2 over 2, which is -1. And again, 7 minus 9 is -2. And -2 over 2 is -1. So yeah, we got the point -1. -1. So looks like a lot of people got that question in the chat, which is awesome, which is great. That tells me that you're actually trying this yourself. So that was the first thing I wanted to show you, was the midpoint formula, and I've got a little bit of homework for you to do, and there's some stuff on the midpoint formula. Now there's a couple other things that I would really like to do. The concern is that there's some other stuff that you need to know before we actually jump into it. So I'm going to do a quick little lesson on radicals. Okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about radicals. Okay? Can you just tell me in the chat if you've done any kind of stuff with like the square root of 6 or something, how to simplify the square root of 6. We're not going to go like off in the deep end. We just need to know a little bit about how to simplify radicals. We're not gonna like go off onto the deep end here. But I do want to do just a couple questions that require us to do some stuff with radicals. It looks like one person is saying that you did these. Okay, that's great. So I'm just gonna do a bit of a review. Oh, someone is saying that we have not. So I'm just gonna give you a quick. Maybe it'll be a review. Maybe it'll be new. Some people are saying we did. Some people said that we didn't. Okay, I'm gonna tell you about radicals. In particular, square roots. So square roots. Are a special type of radical. Okay, so a square root is the opposite of the exponent of 2. Okay, so that is, if I know that like 9 squared is 81, that means that the square root of 81 is equal to 9. Okay, so looks like you talked about it just a little bit. So yeah, I'm glad that we're here now, and we can talk about it now. So we've got 9 squared is 81, which means that the square root of 81 is 9. Now, I just want to be very clear about a common misconception. So, all right, common misconception. Okay, and I can't even begin to tell you how often I see this misconception, and it seems like an honest mistake, and it is an honest mistake, but it can lead to like deeper problems that kind of balloon. So it's really good just now to know that this is a common mistake, and I don't want you to make this mistake. So the idea is that some people think that the square root of, let's say, 81 is equal to plus or minus 9. That's a very common mistake. It turns out that this is not equal. So this is, I'm just gonna sort of put this in a red cloud here. I'm gonna write not true. So people believe that this is true because they say, okay, well, I know that negative 9 squared is 81. So that means, and also positive 9 squared is 81. So the square root of 81 has got to be either one of those. It's got to be either positive 9 or negative 9. So it's plus or minus 9. That is, like, it's a reasonable thing to think. It's very reasonable. But this symbol right here, this symbol right here, this means principal. Oops, that's supposed to be a P. Principal square root. Okay, that means that we're only taking the positive version of that root. So so even though it's true that negative 9 squared is positive 81, when we take the square root using that little square root symbol, that means we're taking the principal square root, and there's only one solution to the principal square root, and that's the positive version. So so the square root of 81 is just equal to 9. So this is true. So this is true. Okay, it's not equal to plus or minus 9. But what we'll find is sometimes in algebra, when you're solving for something, kind of like how we were sort of factoring these trinomials and things like that, if you're solving for things, sometimes when you take a square root, you'll get a plus and minus answer, and that happens when you're using algebra. But in general, when you're just taking a square root of a number, it's just a single value. It's not two values, it's just one. Okay, so I want to talk very quickly about how to simplify a square root. So simplifying square roots. Okay. And it looks like I'm not actually going to get through everything I wanted to today. Another thing, I'm not sure if I mentioned this on my on the stream today, but in the on the website in the update section, I've changed my classes to be 45 minutes long. The reason I did that is because I'm finding just my voice can't talk for this much time every single day. Because keep in mind, even though I only see you every second day, I see all my other classes every single day. So if I'm talking for a full hour, my voice is just kind of done by the end of the day. So So going forward, we're just gonna have 45-minute classes. So we're gonna wrap this up in about 10 minutes. So I don't think that we're gonna be able to cover everything that I wanted to today, but that's okay. So what I'll do for the homework is I'll just get you to do the stuff that we did do today, and then next class we'll kind of finish it off. So simplifying square roots. I'm just gonna do a series of examples. If we're given a square root that is not a perfect square, so let's say we're given, the square root of, let's say, 64, and we're asked to simplify. This is straightforward. Straightforward because 64 is a perfect square. So the square root of 64 is just equal to 8. There's nothing really to it. So let's try another one. Let's try to simplify. Let's try to simplify one that's not a perfect square. Okay, let's try to simplify one that's not a perfect square. Let's try to simplify, let's say, let's try 20. Let's try 20. Let's try to simplify the square root of 20. How do you simplify that? Well, that's not a perfect square. And you could say, okay, well, I'm going to take it to my calculator, and I'm going to just see what the calculator says. This is not the same as evaluate. Okay, when I simplify, and I should be pointing at the word simplify. When I simplify something, that's different than evaluating it. If you just punch this into your calculator, you would just be evaluating the square root of 20. You wouldn't be simplifying it. Think of it like with fractions. You could convert a fraction into a decimal. That would be evaluating it. If I ask you to simplify a fraction, that's a much different process, right? Like what you'd be doing is you'd be finding common factors among the numerator and the denominator and canceling them and that kind of thing. When we simplify a radical, it's a little bit different. What we look at is the following. So you want to find factors of 20 which are perfect squares. Okay, so we're looking for factors of 20 that are perfect squares. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's 20, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor 20 using a factor tree, and I'm going to find 4 and 5, and then this is 2 and 2, and these are, 20 is equal to 2 squared times 5, and look at this. This is a perfect square right here. It's a perfect square because it's got an exponent of 2. So what I can do is I can say that the square root of 20 is equal to the square root of 4 times 5. And the nice thing about square roots is that if you have some multiplying inside, it's going to look like this. We'll have the square root of 4 times the square root of 5. And this, well, the square root of 4 is just 2, so this is 2 times the square root of 5. And this is simplified. So this right here is simplified. Okay? I wonder if you can see that with my head in the way. There we go. So that's what I want you to do when I want you to simplify a radical. Let's try just a couple more examples. Let's try. Let's see here. Maybe I'll. Yeah, I'll try. Okay, simplify the square root of 48. Okay, square root of 48. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 48, I'm going to factor it. So when I look at 48, I think of 6 times 8. 6 is 2 times 3. These are prime. 8 is 2 times 4. 2 is prime. 4 is 2 times 2. Looks like we have a lot of 2's here. So 48 is equal to 2 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 to the 4 times 3. Okay. So let's see. It looks like I can write this as, well, 2 to the 4 is, that's a perfect square because this is an even exponent. So I can write this as the square root of 48 is equal to the square root of, well, 2 to the 4, that's 16. 16 times 3, which is equal to the square root of 16 times the square root of 3. The square root of 16 is 4. So this is 4 times the square root of 3. And that's perfectly simplified. So I've got a few examples on the homework today to do this. And it looks like we actually do have just enough time to talk about the distance formula, which I would like us to try to get through. So we've got just a couple minutes, and so what I'll do is I'll just show you what the distance formula is, and I'll try to talk about where it comes from, and then in the next class we'll really kind of jump into the deeper understanding, because I don't expect us to have a deep understanding if I'm telling you about it for like 3 minutes, because we're gonna sign off in about 3 minutes. So I just want to give you a little bit of something that you can work on for the homework today. So the distance formula. So this is a formula that calculates the distance. So it calculates distance between 2 points. And it does so using the Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem. Okay? So I'll just kind of give you an idea of what it sort of looks like. So if I had this point right here and this point right here, and I wanted to find the distance between them, okay, that would be this right here. So this is the distance. What I would do is I would sort of construct a right angle triangle, and I mean, you can probably imagine that this would be pretty easy to calculate. That would be A. Oops, and then this would be B. And then now you could use the Pythagorean theorem to calculate that hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse would be the distance between them. So I'm going to just give you the formula. And next class, we'll talk about how the formula is used. So the distance formula is, so between 2 points, P, which has coordinates x1 and y1, and Q, which has coordinates x2, y2. The distance between them, is, and I write it like this: the distance between P and Q is equal to, well, it's the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. There we go. And that's the distance. That's the distance between those 2 points. So you can sort of think of in the above diagram that this is kind of like our A, or actually this would be our B, and this is kind of like our A. It's just the distance between these 2 points. And then we just attack it with the Pythagorean theorem, and that's really all there is to it. So I'm going to post a little piece of homework on the website now, and you can try to work on that for next class. And did we just do this in science? So I'm not. Oh, you're asking the chat, not Mr. Bennett. Okay. Anything else? Oh, is it okay if we do it differently? Yes, and I assume that you're talking about simplifying radicals. Yeah, you can do that differently if you want. Yeah, okay, so that's the distance formula. And I've got just a couple questions that I'd like you to do on the website. I'll post those in just a few moments. Otherwise, I'm gonna sign out. And please do read the update on the website. Even if you got like an email or something from your parents or something like that. Will this homework be due on Google Classroom? No. This is just homework. This is not an assignment. This is just for your practice. So not everything that I get you to do is worth marks. This is just for your own practice. The solutions are on the second page. So it is important that you actually try this out, because you don't want to be trying it out for the very first time on an assignment that's worth marks, right? It's much better to have some practice with something that's not worth any marks, right? Just to have the opportunity to make mistakes and stuff, and see the answers and try things. So yeah, I'm gonna sign out now, and I guess I'll talk to you guys on Thursday. So until then, have a good day, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. A thing that I did note on that update on my website, which I really urge you to read, is that if you do ask sort of math related questions, like for math help kind of thing, I'm only going to be responding to answers or questions during school hours, like between like the hours of like 9 to 5, that kind of thing. So just bear in mind, like if you ask me a question at midnight or something, that's fine, but I'm not gonna answer you until the next day. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna sign out now. Take care, and I hope you guys are well, and I'll talk to you on Thursday. Bye bye.